You ever have one of those rare, quiet evenings where everything just feels lined up? That was me. Sitting on the couch, laptop open, sipping on lukewarm coffee and finalizing table arrangements for the wedding. It wasn't glamorous work, but it gave me a kind of peaceful control. I like that. My name's Marcus. I'm 32. High school biology teacher, living in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My fiancée, Elise, was off on her bachelorette weekend in Asheville with her girls, and I was enjoying the stillness. Then came the notification. I glanced at my phone. Elise was live on video. Some group stream, probably something goofy from her cabin party. I wasn't worried. Elise could be a little wild with her friends, but I trusted her. I tapped the link and the screen loaded. There she was, holding a wine glass the size of her head, cheeks flushed, sitting cross-legged on a couch surrounded by her girls. To Elise, one of them shouted, and the others hooped like it was New Year's Eve. Elise giggled, waving off the noise. I mean, I know Marcus is, like, dependable and sweet and all that. But sometimes she trailed off, glancing sideways at someone. What? One friend grinned, nudging her. Elise covered her mouth with one hand. Sometimes I just wonder, like, am I really doing this? Like, should I even go through with this wedding? There was a beat of silence. Then laughter, boisterous, cruel in its timing. Someone started chanting, ditch him, ditch him, and a few others picked it up like it was a game. I didn't feel angry. Not at first. I didn't throw my phone or pace the floor or yell at the walls. I just sat there, watching my future dissolve in pixels. Elise kept laughing. Not like it was a joke, more like it was something she'd been dying to say. Her eyes were too honest for it to be nothing. I tapped the chat window. My fingers didn't shake. I typed 2 words, then don't. A few seconds later, I closed the app. I opened our wedding planner and deleted the shared calendar access. Then I pulled up the email from the venue and typed a quick message. Please cancel our booking. I'll eat the deposit. No need for further contact. Next came the florist, the DJ, the photographer. I sent polite but final messages, confirming cancellations. I didn't even have to think about it. It was like flipping off switches in a house I no longer lived in. Last was the travel agency. We had a honeymoon booked for Santorini. Non-refundable, but I sent the cancellation request anyway. Elise had picked the destination. Suddenly, I didn't care if I ever saw the place. I paused, looking around my living room. Everything was still. The lamp hummed. The couch cushion was warm where I'd been sitting. Nothing was broken, but everything had changed. I stood, walked into the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. Cold. Clean. My heart was beating, sure, but not fast. Just steady. Decisive. I wasn't going to fight for someone who joked about leaving me in front of a crowd. I wasn't going to explain myself or ask for an apology or wonder if she meant it. She said what she said, and I heard her. By the next morning, the cancellations were nearly done. I had a system, vendor folder, budget spreadsheet, contact list. One by one, I crossed them off. The caterer offered partial credit. The photographer sounded genuinely sympathetic. The DJ just said, damn, man. Sorry to hear that, and hung up. Elise still hadn't reached out. Not directly, but her best friend Natalie, maid of honor, group planner, human bullhorn, blew up my phone starting at 8:17 a.m. Natalie, what the hell is going on? Natalie, you just canceled the venue? Natalie, did you seriously text the planner? No longer applicable? I didn't reply. What was the point? Instead, I opened up our shared Google account. Wedding planning documents, seating charts, Pinterest boards, the honeymoon budget Elise never once helped to just gone. Access revoked. Ownership transferred. Then deleted entirely. She still had access to our joint wedding email, though. I paused before logging in. Sure enough, there were new messages from our planner, 2 vendors, and one from Elise's and asking if the rehearsal dinner was still happening. I didn't reply to any of them. I changed the password, logged out, and disabled the inbox. My phone buzzed again. Natalie, Elise is freaking out. You could have talked to her first. You're making a huge mistake. I set the phone face down on the table. I wasn't making a mistake. I was cleaning one up. I moved on to the bank. Elise and I didn't have a joint account yet. We were both dragging our feet on that. But I had added her to a couple of tools I used to budget. Those came off in minutes. Next, the registry. I'd set it up under my Amazon business account to get vendor discounts. I pulled that offline. Deleted the link. Recovered about $200 in credit. The last thing I did was send a short, polite email to Elise's father. He had paid for the venue as a gift to Elise. No strings attached, he said. I kept it professional. Mr. Bartlett, just informing you that the wedding venue has been canceled. I understand you fronted the payment. I've asked the venue to process any available refund back to your card. Thank you again for your generosity. No emotion. No backstory. Just a clean, final update. When everything was done, I poured another glass of water and sat back down in my kitchen chair. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. No music. No texts. No screaming. Just me. It wasn't heartbreak. Not yet. It felt more like a switch had been flipped. Like something deep inside had clicked into place. I wasn't Elise's cleanup crew anymore. I wasn't her insurance policy. I was just done. Elise showed up the next morning. I heard her before I saw her, heels pounding the stairs, the front door flying open like she still lived here. Her voice cracked through the quiet. Marcus. I didn't even flinch. I was standing at the kitchen sink, finishing the dishes from the night before. Just a coffee mug and the glass I'd used for water. She stormed into the kitchen, cheeks flushed, eyes wide with a mess of shock and mascara. She wasn't crying. Not yet. What the hell did you do? I turned off the faucet and dried my hands with a dish towel. Good morning to you too. She ignored that. The venue's canceled. The honeymoon's canceled. Natalie says you blocked her from the planning doc. Are you seriously having a breakdown right now? I looked her dead in the eye. You said you didn't know if you should go through with the wedding. That was a joke, she snapped. We were drinking. It was a joke. I leaned against the counter. You said it in front of 10 people. And a live stream. And a chant. Her mouth opened, then closed. You mocked me, I continued, my tone even. Called me dependable and dull like it was a punchline. Laughed about whether or not you should marry me. That's not a joke. That's a confession with a chaser. Oh, come on, she said, voice rising. Everyone knew I was just playing around. You know I get dramatic when I'm drunk. I didn't answer. Just watched her. And seriously? Canceling everything without talking to me? She threw her hands in the air. You've humiliated me, Marcus. I raised an eyebrow. You humiliated yourself. That hit. She blinked, like I'd slapped her. People say things when they're drunk. Not things they don't already believe, I replied. She dropped into a chair at the table, hands clenched around her phone. Do you know how much money you just threw away? My dad's furious. I had a non-refundable dress. Deposits are gone. I've already contacted your father, I said calmly. Refunds are being processed where possible. I'm covering my half. You'll need to follow up with vendors for yours. Elise stared at me like I'd turned to stone. You're serious. I nodded. So that's it, she whispered. You're just done. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the table. You made a joke out of our wedding. You didn't even defend me when they laughed. And now you're mad that I didn't ask for your permission to leave. She looked at me for a long time, searching for something, regret, anger, maybe even a fight. But I had nothing left to give. She stood suddenly, like the chair burned her. You're unbelievable. No, I said. I'm just done pretending this was mutual. She didn't slam the door on her way out. She just left. And the silence afterward felt like air finally returning to the room. By that evening, Elise's voice had disappeared. But Natalie's? Loud as hell. I got the first taste when a mutual friend, Jenna, sent me a screenshot from a group chat I hadn't realized I'd been kicked out of months ago. It was Natalie in full crisis mode. Natalie, Marcus blew up the wedding over one dumb joke. Elise is devastated. He didn't even talk to her first. Just went nuclear and canceled everything behind her back. Someone else. Wait, what happened? Natalie, he's acting like she cheated or something. It was just bachelorette stuff. Literally nothing serious. Now she's humiliated and has to explain to her whole family why her fiancé ghosted her over a live stream. By the time I finished reading, I'd gotten 2 new follower requests from Elise's cousins and a DM from some guy I vaguely knew from high school. Random DM. Hey man, heard what happened. That's rough. But maybe you overreacted? Bachelorette parties are always messy. I didn't answer. I didn't post. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself. I didn't owe anyone a debate. Instead, I went to work locking down everything that still had Elise's fingerprints on it. First, the wedding logo and monogram design I had made myself, gone from Canva and Illustrator. Shared folders in Dropbox? Unshared. Passwords changed. My Adobe license? Her access revoked. She hadn't asked for any of it, but she'd used it all. Designs, templates, invites. I had made those things. And now, they weren't hers to touch. I pulled up our shared online shopping accounts, Target, Amazon, even Zola, and removed her from each. She'd used my logins to add stuff to our wedding registry and send herself things on my Prime. Access denied. I checked our Spotify wedding mix playlist and smiled a little. It was still there. I hit delete without hesitation. The texts kept coming, some from numbers I didn't recognize. Mutual friend, just checking in. Hope you're okay. Elise is telling people you blindsided her. Another, Natalie's saying you ghosted the whole wedding. Just want to hear your side before I comment on anything. I didn't respond to any of it. Let them wonder. Let them guess what really happened. The people who mattered would ask me directly. The rest? They weren't worth a press release. By midnight, I had shut down every shared link, file, and account. The only thing Elise had left was her own inbox and whatever narrative Natalie was writing for her. But I wasn't playing social chess. I wasn't trying to get even. I was just closing the door. and making damn sure she couldn't climb back in through a window. A week later, the rent was due. Elise's name was still on the lease. She hadn't officially moved out, though, technically, she hadn't spent a single night in the apartment since the confrontation. Her things were half here, half scattered across her friend's spare rooms, according to Natalie's latest Instagram story. I'd paid the full rent for the past 2 months. Once when she forgot. Again when she said her paycheck was weirdly late. I hadn't made a big deal out of it then. But that was before the live stream. Before the jokes. Before the realization that this woman didn't see me as a partner. Just a stability plan with a pulse. So when I checked the banking app that morning and saw that her half of the rent hadn't come in, I didn't ask. I didn't text. I sent an email. Subject: apartment lease, outstanding payment. Hi Elise. Just a reminder that rent was due yesterday. Your half, $947.50, hasn't been received. Please transfer it by the end of the day to avoid late penalties. As a courtesy, I've CC'd your father since he co-signed the lease. Thanks. Marcus. I stared at the screen for a second before hitting send. It felt sterile, detached, exactly the tone I was going for. This wasn't about bitterness. It was about boundaries. She called me 15 minutes later. Not texted, called. I let it ring twice before I answered. What the hell is wrong with you? She snapped, skipping the hello. Hi, I said calmly. Got the email? You really CC'd my dad? Are you serious right now? I walked into the living room and sat down. You're still on the lease. That makes you responsible for half the rent. She scoffed. Wow. Okay, so now you're petty and performative. I didn't respond. You could have just texted me, she hissed. I could have, I said evenly. But I didn't. This isn't a personal favor anymore. This is legal responsibility. I'm not jeopardizing my credit because you're ghosting bills. She went quiet for a second. Then, I just need a few days. I've been dealing with a lot. I'm not your financial cushion, I said. I'm your former fiancé. You mocked me, Elise. Publicly. And now you expect me to keep funding your disappearance like nothing happened. You don't have to be so cruel. I tilted my head, though she couldn't see it. It's not cruelty. It's adulthood. She hung up. No dramatic exit line. No screaming. Just silence. I checked the bank again later that night. Payment received. Full amount. No note attached. No apology. Just the money. Which, honestly, was all I needed. The necklace was gone. I realized it 2 nights later when I went to grab my keys from the dish near the bedroom dresser. That antique box, my grandmother's jewelry box, was cracked slightly open. I never left it like that. I checked inside, half knowing what I'd find. The necklace wasn't there. It wasn't a flashy piece. No diamonds or gems. Just a thin chain of rose gold and a small locket engraved with my grandmother's initials. She wore it every Sunday until the day she died. When she left it to me, my mom said, because she knew you wouldn't pawn it. You'd keep it close. Elise loved that necklace. She wore it often, sometimes to dinner, sometimes just lounging around the apartment. I never minded. It looked good on her, and she always said it made her feel elegant. But she knew it wasn't hers. She knew where it came from. And now, it was missing. That same morning, I'd noticed the apartment looked lighter. The coat hooks by the door were empty. The shoe rack had more space. The bathroom sink didn't have her makeup bag crowding the edge anymore. She hadn't told me she was coming to get her stuff. But Natalie had. A few days earlier, she texted, Natalie, FYI, I'll be stopping by Thursday while you're at work to help Elise grab her things. She doesn't want it to be awkward. I hadn't replied. I should have. I should have made a list, set boundaries, locked that drawer. But I didn't. So now, I did the next best thing. I opened my laptop and pulled up an old photo from last November. Elise sitting at Thanksgiving dinner, the necklace gleaming under candlelight. I took a screenshot, timestamped it, and embedded it into an email. Subject: missing property, request for return. Elise, while collecting your belongings, the heirloom necklace that belonged to my grandmother has gone missing. You've borrowed it in the past, as seen in the attached photo. Please return the necklace within the week. I've also copied your father on this email, as he helped coordinate your item pickup. This piece has deep sentimental value, and I'm requesting its return before escalating further. Marcus. I hit send. That night, I came home to a half-empty apartment. The shelves were bare. The fridge was nearly empty. The living room felt like someone had vacuumed all the warmth out of it. She hadn't left a note, but she had left her mark. No necklace. No acknowledgement. Just a quiet, strategic theft wrapped in sentiment. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom, looking at that cracked jewelry box. My jaw tightened. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a message, and I'd heard it loud and clear. It was Elise's father who reached out next. Email first, short, formal. He asked if I'd be open to meeting in person. To close this chapter properly, he wrote. No mention of Elise. No apology either. Just a time in a cafe near downtown. I agreed. Not because I wanted to see her, but because I wanted my necklace back. Saturday morning, I got there 5 minutes early, ordered black coffee, picked the booth in the corner. When they arrived, I saw the pouch in his hand before I saw Elise's face. She followed behind him, slow and stiff like a kid forced to apologize after stealing candy. She didn't say a word when she sat down. No hi, no eye contact. She looked at the table like it might explode. Her father slid the pouch across to me. Simple velvet. I opened it. The necklace was inside, folded neatly, unharmed. Thank you, I said, zipping it into my coat pocket. He nodded. That belonged to your grandmother, correct? Yes. I understand the weight of that, he said. I told Elise she was out of line, which is why I'm here, cleaning it up. I glanced at her. She still hadn't looked at me. Her father sighed, like this wasn't the first mess he'd been asked to fix. I've already sent payment to cover her half of this month's rent, he continued. And I've asked the landlord to remove her from the lease. You won't be legally tied anymore. I nodded again. Appreciated. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded document. Copy of the lease amendment, signed and notarized. It was clinical, transactional, the way I preferred it now. Then Elise finally spoke. I want reimbursement for the wedding dress. Her father tensed beside her. I turned slowly, looking her in the eyes for the first time since the kitchen blow-up. You want what? I asked, just to make sure I'd heard right. She swallowed. It was custom. I can't return it. I only bought it because we were. I cut her off. Elise, you publicly said you weren't sure you even wanted to marry me. On video. In front of your friends. You mocked me like a punchline. I was drunk. And I paid for the honeymoon, the venue deposit, the engagement ring. Non-refundable. You want to compare receipts. Her mouth twisted. That's not the same. It's exactly the same, I said. But since you brought it up, I'll be selling the ring. To cover losses. Her eyes went wide. You're selling it. I'm not keeping a monument to your indecision. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she had nothing. Her father cleared his throat. That's enough, Elise. She sank into her chair, arms crossed, jaw tight. I stood, adjusting my coat. I think we're done here. Her father gave me a firm nod. You've handled this with more grace than most would. I'll take care of the rest. I thanked him and turned to leave. As I stepped out into the cold air, I felt the pouch in my pocket, cool against my chest, exactly where it belonged. Behind me, Elise was still sitting in silence, watching something she thought she could control walk away from her, for good. For months later, my apartment was quiet. The kind of quiet you don't notice at first, but it builds, layering on itself like soft snow. No drama texts. No sudden visits. No countdown clocks. No Pinterest boards. No conversations where I had to squint to figure out what part was the truth. Just peace. I got used to coming home and not checking for Elise's shoes at the door. Her name wasn't on any bills, any folders, any plans. She'd become something that existed in the past tense. Not like a scar. More like a story I'd already told, and didn't feel the need to revisit. I kept teaching. My students didn't know anything had happened. Not really. I still ran the ecology club, still made terrible frog puns, still graded essays with color-coded stickers like it was second grade. Routine helped. But on the weekends, I started researching flights. Greece. That was supposed to be our honeymoon destination. White rooftops, narrow alleys, sunsets Elise had circled in magazines. Santorini, specifically. It had been her dream trip, not mine. I just wanted to see the water. Now I was going alone. I booked it on a Tuesday night. One-way flight, no fanfare. Just clicked through the seats and paid with the card I used to use for joint expenses. Then I opened the drawer in my desk and pulled out the ring box. I hadn't looked at it since the day I said I'd sell it. It was still there, diamond clean, setting flawless, proof that I'd once believed something would last. I listed it that night. High and buyer. No fuss. It sold in 2 days. I didn't feel good, but I did feel finished. In the background, Elise and Natalie had been spiraling. The video clip from the Bachelorette weekend had surfaced. I never shared it, but someone else had, probably one of the girls who got sick of Natalie's PR spin. It wasn't long before it made the rounds, Elise laughing into her wine glass. Should I even go through with this wedding? Then the chant. Ditch him. Ditch him. By the time it hit Twitter, they were a meme. I muted the group texts. Blocked them both. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need the truth twisted one more time. I packed light for the trip. Just a duffel bag, a camera, a notebook I hadn't written in for years. When I got to the airport, I didn't feel excited or nervous. I felt ready. As I boarded the flight to Athens, I looked out the window and thought, not about what I'd lost, but about what I'd finally stopped carrying. No audience. No performance. No pretending to be the safe bet in someone else's show. Just me. A man who kept his word. And finally stopped keeping everyone else's.